3 chilling stories that will keep you awake tonight. Hi there. Tonight, I've got something special for you. We're diving into not 1, not 2, but 3 spine-chilling tales that'll make your skin crawl. Each story gets darker and more mysterious as we go. So, grab a blanket, turn off the lights, and let's start with the tale of a strange journal found in an old house. But beware, the truth it reveals is not for the faint-hearted.
I found a mysterious journal in my new house, and it revealed a chilling secret. Imagine moving into a new place and finding a hidden journal. Sounds exciting, right? Well, what if that journal hinted at something unsettling about your own house? Let's get into it. I moved into this old, slightly worn-out house, excited to make it mine. During unpacking, I found a loose floorboard in the bedroom closet. I couldn't resist checking, and that's when I found it, a dusty, leather-bound journal hidden away. It looked like it hadn't been touched in decades. The journal started with ordinary stuff about the first owners, a couple named Thomas and Amelia who lived here in the 1920s. But a few pages in, Thomas mentioned odd things happening around the house. Shadows in the hallway, and whispers he couldn't explain. And the strangest part? He mentioned finding wet footprints on the floor, leading down to the basement. As I kept reading, Thomas wrote about one night when he decided to follow those footprints. He went down into the basement and thought he heard someone breathing nearby. It spooked him so much that he boarded up the basement door, thinking that would keep whatever was there out of sight. The last few entries from Thomas got shorter, almost like he was in a hurry to write things down. He mentioned his wife having nightmares about someone standing in the corner of their room. It seemed like the situation was getting worse, but then, just like that, the journal stopped. After finding the journal, I thought it was all just an eerie story from the past. But then things started happening to me too. I'd hear sounds at night, footsteps, and creaks from the basement even though I was alone. One night, I was half asleep when I thought I heard a voice whispering from the closet, the same closet where I'd found the journal. It was just a single word, leave. That was enough to make me question if it was safe here at all. So, now I'm stuck with a choice. Do I pack up and leave, or try to learn more about what really happened here? I'm not sure, but this place doesn't feel as welcoming as it did when I first moved in. What would you do? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this story, remember to like and subscribe.
Just when you think things can't get any creepier, imagine capturing something on camera that defies explanation. Our next story takes us to a nightmarish moment caught on a security camera. Trust me, you'll never look at your home the same way again.
The creepiest thing I've ever seen on a security camera. Have you ever checked your security camera footage and seen something you just couldn't explain? Imagine seeing a stranger in your yard at 3 a.m. or something that makes you question what's real. Let's dive into a story that still gives me chills. So, this happened a few months after I set up a security camera outside my house. I wasn't really expecting to catch anything. I live in a quiet area. But after hearing about some break-ins around the neighborhood, I figured it couldn't hurt to have an extra set of eyes outside. One morning, I was just going through some footage, curious to see if the cameras had picked up any animals or anything unusual. The night before, there had been some random noises outside, so I decided to check it out. That's when I noticed something strange. At first, I thought it was just my eyes playing tricks on me. But I rewound the footage and it was still there. Around 2:30 a.m., there was a shadowy figure standing at the edge of my yard, right under the streetlight. I couldn't make out any details, but it was definitely someone or something. I brushed it off as a one-time thing, but I couldn't shake the weird feeling. A few nights later, I decided to check the camera again, and this time, the figure was closer. It was standing near the tree in the middle of my yard, just barely visible in the darkness. The way it stood there, it didn't move. Just stood perfectly still. It freaked me out enough that I considered calling the police, but I figured they'd think I was overreacting. I mean, what could they do? So, I decided to monitor the footage every night just to be sure. But then, a week later, I caught the creepiest thing yet. It was around 3 a.m. and I saw movement. This time, the figure walked right up to the porch, like they were just casually strolling through my yard. They walked up to my front door, paused for a few seconds, and then they turned and looked directly at the camera. The camera's night vision couldn't pick up details of the face, but that empty gaze made my skin crawl. It was like they knew I was watching. Then, after a few seconds, they just walked off, back into the darkness, like nothing ever happened. At this point, I was genuinely scared. I started locking every door and window, even during the day. Every noise, every creak would make me jump. I didn't know what this person wanted, but it felt like they were testing me, seeing how close they could get without me reacting. I considered getting rid of the camera, but I also wanted to know if they'd come back. And sure enough, every few nights, they'd show up in the footage. Sometimes they'd just stand there in the yard, other times, they'd come right up to the porch. Once, they even crouched down, looking through one of the windows. The last time I saw them, it was around midnight. This time, the figure walked slowly around the entire house, pausing at every window like they were looking inside, checking each one. Finally, they came to the back door, where they just stopped. They stayed there, completely still, for almost a full minute. Then, they turned and walked away, disappearing into the darkness. After that, I couldn't take it anymore. I showed the footage to the police, who finally agreed to patrol the area at night. Since then, I haven't seen the figure return, but I still can't shake the feeling that they're out there somewhere, watching. And every now and then, I catch myself glancing at the camera, hoping I never see that figure again. So, what would you do if you saw someone like that on your security camera? Let me know in the comments. And if this story gave you chills, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more creepy tales from beyond the screen. Stay safe out there.
Still with me? Good, because this last story might just be the most unnerving of all. When a neighbor goes missing, most people would call the police and leave it at that. But what if you stumbled upon their secret room? Let's find out what horrifying discoveries were made.
My neighbor disappeared. Then I found his secret room. Imagine finding out your neighbor has vanished, and when you decide to investigate, you stumble upon a hidden room in their apartment. Here's what happened. About 6 months ago, I moved into a new apartment building. It's a quiet place, not a lot of people coming and going. One neighbor stood out, though, an older guy named Tom who lived across the hall. He kept to himself, but we'd nod hello if we passed each other in the hallway. Tom was the kind of guy who always wore the same old brown coat and carried a well-worn briefcase, like he had a routine and stuck to it. A few weeks ago, I realized I hadn't seen Tom in a while. At first, I thought maybe he was just on vacation. But after a couple of weeks, I started getting a little concerned. His mailbox was overflowing, and his door had this off feeling, like something was wrong. So one day I knocked. Nothing. I knocked a few more times, louder. Still nothing. I thought about calling the building manager but decided to let it go. Maybe he'd show up. Another week went by, and I started hearing weird noises from his apartment. Soft, shuffling sounds, like someone was moving things around in there. At first, I thought maybe it was someone checking on his place, maybe a relative or a friend. But then late one night, I heard something stranger. It was this faint clicking sound, like a lock turning or being picked. I went out into the hallway and just listened. The sound stopped, and then everything went quiet again. It gave me this uneasy feeling, but I figured there wasn't much I could do. One night, I decided to go check on his place again, just to make sure nothing was wrong. His door was unlocked. I hesitated, but curiosity got the better of me. I pushed it open and went inside. The place looked pretty normal at first glance. Simple furniture, a bit cluttered, but nothing too unusual. But as I walked in, I felt this strange sense of cold, like the air was stale. Everything was eerily still. I noticed a bookshelf that looked a bit strange, like it was angled just slightly away from the wall. I don't know why, but I was drawn to it. I reached out and pushed it aside, and behind it, there was a small door. I felt my stomach twist. Who has a hidden door in their apartment? The door wasn't locked, so I opened it, and there it was. A narrow room with a small table and a chair, and piles of notebooks stacked neatly along the walls. The air in there was heavy, like it hadn't been disturbed in ages. I looked through the notebooks, feeling like I was invading some dark secret. The entries were strange. They were lists of dates and times, all written in this precise handwriting. Each date had a description next to it, things like, saw her leave at 7:15 or light turned off at 10:02. At first, I thought he'd been tracking his own life, but then I started noticing descriptions that seemed familiar. They were about me, my comings and goings, what I wore, what I carried. And he hadn't just been watching me, there were notes on the other neighbors too. My mind was racing. This wasn't just a record of daily life. It was almost like surveillance. I felt like I was seeing a side of Tom I'd never imagined. A side that made me feel like I'd been watched for months without even knowing it. I left the apartment feeling shaken, locking the door behind me as if that would somehow keep the weirdness inside. I never did see Tom again. His place stayed empty, and after a while, I heard the building manager finally cleared out his things. But sometimes, late at night, I wonder if he's really gone. The thought of him, or someone like him, still watching, hidden behind some wall or door I don't even know about, well, it's enough to make anyone a little paranoid. Have you ever had a neighbor who seemed a bit too curious?
3 stories, 3 nightmares. If you enjoyed this chilling journey, make sure to like this video, subscribe for more, and share your favorite part in the comments below. Until next time, sleep with one eye open.